Yes, 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 yes. Still colours in the building. What's everyone saying? Kev, what are you saying?
I'm alright still. Man, just a bit tired, but it is what it is.
I
Yeah.
hear that, bro. I hear that. So today, guys, we're here filming a very, very special and new segment, especially for you guys. Um, we're calling this segment "If We Had to Pick." Now, what this segment's all about is us essentially just putting two classic albums of the past together and coming to the conclusion on what we think is the better album. And this is episode 1. There's many, many more episodes to come. This is the first installment. So obviously you guys stay locked in. But yeah, today we're comparing two albums that defined the early 2000s, especially in terms of hip hop music. And I think it's fair to say, Kay, that these two albums will go down as two of the greatest hip hop albums of all time.
Yeah, man, they are in that category for sure, fam. Like they're amazing albums.
The two albums that we're referring to are 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Tryin' and Kanye's College Dropout. And what's interesting about these two albums is the fact that these two albums were both the debut projects of 50 Cent and Kanye West. And I feel like these two albums went on to literally cement both of their careers. You know what I'm saying? Especially in terms of 50. Obviously, yeah, he's got a number of classic albums under his belt, but I feel like the College Dropout was obviously the start of that. These two albums are literally on Rolling Stone's 500 greatest album list. So obviously in popular culture, those two albums are already rubber stamped. You know what I'm trying to say? So 4 main criteria that we're going to be speaking about in concerns of these two albums are the buzz, the sonics, the replay value, and the cultural impact. And then to be spoken about those 4 things, me and Kate are gonna give both of our opinions on what we think was the better album and what album out of those two we prefer. Further ado, let's get into it. So, Kate, in terms of like the buzz for both of these two albums, I mean, who do you feel like had the bigger buzz?
Yeah, I mean, of course it's 50 Cent. I mean, 50 Cent's story and leading up to him releasing the album was huge. Everyone has heard about the story of him getting sort of shot 9 times. And I do believe that that was when he had signed the deal with Colombia that it had happened, or that might have been a deal that sort of did flop and then something else had happened. But either way, he had a massive, he released a couple of mixtapes that sort of, got the streets, rowdy, everyone loved it. And then he released How to Rob as well. That was another big freestyle as well that kind of put 50 Cent on the radar as well. Right. And I believe he then got shot as well, and then he linked up with the two titans, which are Eminem and Dr. Dre. And from then on, the legend was made of 50 Cent. Kanye West story was a very, very good producer that produced on many sort of top albums in the, I think, late 90s to early 2000s as well, from like The Blueprint, and I believe on like records on Alicia Keys and obviously Confessions, but maybe that was after his EP had been released as well. But he wasn't looked at as anyone who's going to sort of change or even do the things that he had done as well, and had a difficulty getting record deals as well before Rockefeller even picked him up. He was producing for them, and he tried to get his own sort of like record deal with maybe other labels, but people were not taking him seriously, just wanted him to sort of produce. And then obviously Dame Dash saw something in Kanye and signed him. And then Kanye did what Kanye did. So yeah. To add on as well, Kanye did also release a mixtape before coming out with the College Dropout as well, that kind of did the rounds that did well.
I think even for Kanye, like the expectations weren't as big as 50.
No.
Because, like you correctly said, he was originally signed as a producer.
Yeah.
They didn't believe in him as an artist, So when College Dropout came out, they weren't really expecting it to do much, So, what I think it definitely took the powers that be by surprise in terms of how well the College Dropout did. In regards to 50 now, 50, he had the weight of the world on his shoulders. This guy, like, I don't think I've ever seen, a buzz as big as 50 in
hip hop. Yeah, I agree with you.
The only one that can come close is maybe Snoop Dogg with Doggy Style back in, I think, 93.
Oh yeah, 100%, because the court case and stuff like that. Yeah, he had the massive. Yeah, you're 100% right.
Or even Drake, But even then, I don't think like their buzz was as big as 50's, And I think you even mentioned this point before. 50 had the biggest artist at the time, behind him. And the
Interscope machine, I forgot to mention. Interscope machine was Gwen Stefani. Anyone signed on Interscope during that period of time was just doing numbers like stupid. Yeah,
it was disgusting. Yeah, so he had the biggest artist at the time behind him, and that artist is Eminem, obviously. And not only that, he also had Dr. Dre behind him. So imagine having those two titans behind you, and then we all know the story of him getting shot 9 times, and obviously the beef with Murder Inc. and so on and so forth. Like, his buzz was incredible, to the point where his buzz was even felt overseas. It wasn't just America; it was over here as well. I can remember like being in primary school. I think I was in the last few months of primary school, and like I can remember, everyone in my classroom, like just singing in the club. By this point, I had never heard a record in it, but literally every time I went to school, people were telling me, "Yo, H, have you heard In the Club? Have you heard In the Club?" And like at this point in time, I don't think I was even allowed to watch like MTV and all of those music channels in it, because obviously my mum,
all that foul stuff, bro.
yeah. So I remember there was like a whole month where she banned me from watching those type of music channels in it. And so I kind of missed out initially when In the Club started to gain buzz, but like everyone in my school kept on talking about the record. And then when I finally heard the record for myself a month later, I was like, oh my days, like, who is this? You know what I'm saying? Like, who is this guy? And like his presence was definitely felt, not just in America, but it was felt all over the world. Yeah, because he was a real street dude. Imagine getting shot 9 times and surviving. Like, I can't lie, when I first heard that story, I thought 50 was invincible. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, I thought he was bulletproof. Because he got shot 9 times from close range as well.
Surprisingly he survived that, which is which again, sorry to cut you off, but which again adds.
It all added to the sort of like
to add to the story and add to the myth of 50 Cent. So the myth of 50 was already made before My Man got released. It was like My Man released his first debut album. It was like the Boogeyman is like coming home. Do you get me? Like the mixtape had been released. People were buzzing on the street. My Man got shot. People were like, what? And he managed to sort of survive that. Now he's got Eminem and Dr. Dre. And then, the myth of 50. But by the time 50 came out, I think for those, of course, that were older, they already had a bigger understanding than someone who was at my age that was very young, and we sort of, the first thing that we introduced to was In the Club and what people who were older than us were telling us, basically.
50's mixtape game was definitely heavy back in those days. Like, with mixtapes, even like my older cousin, shout out Derek. He had a bunch of 50's bootleg mixtapes. And I definitely feel like that's what helped him gain the buzz that he did, because he was just flooding the streets. It was him, Lloyd Banks, Tony Yayo. Before obviously Tony Yayo went to prison. Young Buck wasn't even in the picture yet, but all of them three were just flooding the streets with mixtapes. And man, that definitely helped 50's buzz. So in regards to 50, man, I definitely feel like he had the bigger buzz. I think he had the biggest buzz in hip hop history. Definitely put that.
100 for starting artists, for
Yeah,
beginning artists. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think
yeah.
it is the biggest one. Yeah.
Okay. Now we're gonna talk about the sonics of both albums.
Yes.
So yeah, we're gonna dive into that a bit deeper. So we're gonna be looking into like the strengths and weaknesses of both of these albums and how they match up against each other. So okay, what are the strengths and weaknesses of both albums in your opinion? Starting with Get Rich or Die Trying.
Okay, so with Get Rich or Die Trying, and this is more like a personal my personal feelings about the listening experience with Get Rich or Die Trying. I believe the intro is extremely sort of strong. There's a whole coin flip, isn't it? And then that's the 50 pence falling on the floor, whether it is on the table as well. And then it starts off, then it goes off with What Up Gangsta. And then I believe it's Patiently Waiting, Minimum in the Club, and High All the Time. And all of this, I think that's probably the first half of the album. Yes, Heat, If I Can, Bloodhound. That all makes up the first half of the album. And I feel it's a strong, it's an absolutely very strong, start on the album. But for me, I believe a lot of the records are, sort of kind of sort of similar, maybe similar in a way, but nonetheless, they each have their own sort of strengths and weaknesses, and it's not like it is a sort of cohesive song cycle that it is with College Dropout, and that's just the first half of the album. But then going further down on the album, that sort of theme sort of does persist. With records like, Like My Star, Poor Little Rich, 21 Questions, Don't Push Me, and Gotta Make to Heaven. Fantastic records, but they are similar to other records on the album, but they are great on their own.
The first track off of Get Rich or Die Trying, like, it's What Up Gangsta, like, again, what a way to start off the album. Like, that sort of, that track within itself, gives you an indication of what that whole album's about. It's that hard hitting, aggressive, in your face, like, yo, I'm hearing it and there's nothing you can do about it. You know what I'm saying? Whereas College Dropout is the complete opposite of that. It's a lot softer, you know what I'm saying? It's a lot more conscious. But Get Rich or Die Trying is just about, 50 showing his assertiveness and showing his aggressiveness, and letting people know that, yo, stuff's about to get real peak in it, because I've arrived on the scene. It's taken years for me to get to this point, and now I'm here. So just in terms of the whole album, the whole Get Rich or Die Try album, I feel like it's 50, just getting so much anger, bitterness, frustration off of his chest. You know what I'm saying? Like you can just hear it in so many of the songs. Many Men. Patiently Waiting, What Up Gangsta, even Wankster, like you can just hear that resentment, that anger, like, for real, man. And you can even hear it in the melodies, like in softer songs like 21 Questions, what I'm trying to say. I definitely agree with you. I think like the first part of the album, like the first 7 to 8 to 9 songs, even up until like PIMP. So like the first 11 songs are very strong. Are very strong for me. Then towards the end, it starts to get a bit like, I've heard this before. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that still doesn't take away from the album, because I still think the album is great. But I feel like it starts to get a bit like redundant towards the end, if that makes sense. Like you start to hear a few of the same tracks that you've heard before. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, it doesn't take away from the album.
And so sorry, and adding on to that as well, it is quite surprising because most albums that are like that doesn't do what Get Rich does, which is it's like I am okay that there are still records that are quite similar, because records like Gotta Make It to Heaven, Poor Little Rich, Like My Style, when we get into the segment about replay value, those records stand tall on themselves. Like I recently listened to a record like Poor Little Rich, and that is an amazing song. So even though some of those records in the other half are similar, and it doesn't flow like a coherent song cycle, And I also add on to this, also so some of the albums also got the bonus record, which is Wangster, You Not Like Me, and Last on the Line, which are sort of similar, like similar theme and almost similar execution. But it's surprising that he's able to make 2-3 songs that are about the same theme and almost like lyrically similar, you know, in terms of idea and where he's going for, but still they sound hard on their own. And that's one thing I give 50 props. Do you get me? Like, it's very rare for an artist to sort of execute 2-3 songs, because normally it's like, oh, you know what, yeah, man's already heard this, because like it's not that good as the other street record. But with 50, it's like, yo, Labs on the Line and Don't Push Me. It's like, yo, I bruv, but still there's a difference. Do you get me? So shout out to 50 on that still.
Yeah, no, shout out to 50. All right, cool. So flipping it over to the College Dropout now. What's your take on that?
Okay, with the College Dropout, and again, Kanye being the producer he is, it's a whole bloody song cycle with, you know, skits tied into it. And I do believe skits were quite big during that period of time. A lot of artists used to have, you know, skits on the album as well. And of course, it starts with the whole intro as well, you know, with the, you know, I believe it's the sort of voiceover. I'm not really sure if it's some sort of like a black college professor who continuously sort of like mocks him on the album as well, which sort of tie in with the whole college theme that the album sort of goes for. So we have records like We Don't Care, Graduation Day, you know, All Falls Down, I Fly Away, Spaceship, Jesus Walk, Never Let Me Down, Get Him High, Workout Plan, New Workout Plan, and then Slow Jam. So that's 12 songs, and that is sort of, I believe, sort of up the first half of the album. And it is a fantastic experience. Like, you know, just the way the album is structured as a whole, and then listening to it as well, and then hearing Kanye sort of go, you know, speak, you know, go from talking about a record like All Falls Down that we all sort of heard, and then, you know, the introspection in the record like All Falls Down, which is also sort of similar with which also ties in with introspection with a record like All Fly Away, but obviously a different record introspection with All Falls Down and I Fly Away. You know, with All Falls Down, it's more like, you know, talking about this sort of, you know, the girl that I believe he's sort of seeing as well. And then, you know, living in the society that she lives in and sort of suffering from the ills of the society as well. And also, you know, him being as high as up and, you know, still feeling self-conscious. With the record like Spaceship, it's more like, you know, working at the workplace as well and just not wanting to sort of work this sort of 9 to 5 in a drag of a job. And sorry, go on, Henry. Go on.
No, sorry, bro. Like, I think it's the variation of the songwriting and the production.
Yeah.
That's what separates this album from Get Rich or Die Tryin'. You know,
yeah.
Like, Kanye produced near enough all the tracks on this.
I believe so, and then he worked with. I think Mike Dean also helped. Maybe I think he engineered it. Maybe. Yeah. I might got that wrong actually.
Regardless, like, I'm not normally a fan of songs being like albums being that long. Like this album is what, 21 tracks long. I know that most some of that is made up of 15 to 20 second skits.
Yeah.
But normally I don't. if an album
is that long,
has 15 plus songs in it, like I start to worry a bit because I feel like it may be too long. But this album, like, is executed to perfection, in my opinion. Some of these songs on this album, like All Falls Down, Jesus Walks, Slow Jams, Through the Wire, like, these are songs, that shaped my childhood. You know?
I mean, 100% they shaped. I remember the singles. Though I didn't have the same excitement with 50 Cent, because with 50 Cent I actually went out of my way to listen to the album. But with College Dropout, which we were sort of talking more about the cultural impact. With the College Dropout, it was enjoying more of the singles that were on play on MTV and then liking them for that as well, but not necessarily going out and listening to the album. But with, you know, like the second half of the album as well, with like I said, I think you already said Through the Wires and of course like Family Business. You know, Kanye, the brilliance about the album is also Kanye talking about, you know, about his family, you know, the whole family reunion as well, and sort of like giving an account to all the family members that are.
I feel like the College Dropout is a lot more relatable than than Get Rich or Die Trying, because how
Yeah.
many people can relate to getting shot 9 times and surviving? You know, like how many people can relate to that? But a lot of people can relate to, you know, the things that Kanye was talking about on family business.
Yeah.
Like, all of us have family problems, you know what I'm trying to say? So I feel like, yeah, the College Dropout is a lot more relatable in that aspect. The features on the College Dropout were near enough perfection.
Yeah.
I think, you know, Jay-Z featured on this album. Common, you know, these are all conscious rappers, you know what I'm trying to say? These are all like God level MCs, you know what I'm trying to say? So like, I feel like the features on this album were very good.
Yeah, and I love Kanye's ability to sort of bridge other type of rappers that wouldn't necessarily sort of, you know, work with conscious rappers, especially during that period of time, and how divisionist there was. More now than before. No, less now than before, sorry. And of course, it's having like, you know, rapper like Freeway on the record, 2 Words as well. And I believe he hadn't pushed that. And also Ludacris with Breathe In, Breathe Out as well, which is also like a, you know, another brilliant song as well. And the production on, you know, on the College Dropout is just jaw-droppingly gorgeous, man. It's like this, there's beautiful moments of like, you know, violin section, orchestrational section as well. And there's gorgeous sort of like soul samples as well. And I think we already sort of talked about, you know, just the thematic. The big part of the album is introspection, I believe, as well, and also the different type of introspection that sort of occurs with the album makes this album incredible for me as well. But yeah, with Get Rich, Die Tryin', there are also moments of tenderness. I forgot to add that later, you know, add that before. There's also moments of tenderness with records like, of course, like Many Men or 21 Question, which I think is a brilliant sort of like relationship song when you actually think about it. You know, it is 50, you know, asking this significant other, you know, about their intentions. Do you get me? And I think it's a lesson that we all could sort of learn. Do you get me? And both of this album does show, you know, moments of vulnerability, which is very nice to hear.
Cool. So we're gonna talk about the replay value of both of these albums now. So like I said, Kate, they both came out a year apart from one another. And it's been what, 16 to 17 years since near enough 16 to 17 years since both of these albums came out. So in regards to replay value, bro, like, what's it saying for you? What album has the most replay value for you?
I mean, both albums have strong replay value, and of course, both albums are very different from one another. So you get a different sort of feel than the other album as well. But for me, probably I would pick, when I was younger and sort of growing up, Get Rich Die Trying 100% had the much greater replay value. And again, it also was because of how sort of commercially dominant 50 Cent was, and also how easy the music he was making, that it was to the type of air that I had back then. So that's why Get Rich Die Trying dominated. Or 50 Cent as an artist was, like, for me, the much bigger presence. It wasn't until I probably got into secondary school that I sort of was able to sort of, get deeper into someone like Kanye, and then he sort of became one of my absolute favorite as well. So I would say in the beginning it was, Get Rich Die Trying, but then later on, in 100%, or now it's the College Dropout. Like, for me, it's phenomenal. But they're both when I make the difference, they both are. It's like, it's 55-45. It's like a 5% difference, really. Do you get me? So that is my music. That's when it comes to me listening to both of those albums. So what about you?
Yeah, bro, like I'm the exact same as you. Like, obviously, when I was younger, like I was just on some bullshit, like, yeah, I was just on some bullshit. Obviously, my musical ears hadn't really evolved, you know what I'm saying? So, like, 50 had my ear, I can't even lie. Like, 50 had my ear. And Get Rich or Die Trying was like, that was on constant replay, you know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, back then we didn't have like Spotify and Apple Music.
Just CDs, innit?
was the CDs, you know what I'm saying? CDs and LimeWire, you know, shout out. That helped out a lot of man. So yeah, I can just remember downloading the album on LimeWire and just listening to it like every single day. And yeah, like I feel like Get Rich or Die Tryin' was appropriate, like for the time frame that we were in back in 03. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, as young kids, yeah.
Yeah.
As impressionable young kids.
Bro, like I wasn't thinking about conscious like stuff. Like I was just on some party and bullshit type of vibe, you know. Like I wanted
excitement.
Excitement. Yeah. Like, because obviously when we were back in secondary school, like most of us were little rascals. So yeah, like Get Rich or Die Tryin' definitely had my ear. But as I've matured and as I've gotten older, you know, Kanye West's College Dropout definitely, you know, has more replay value. You know, I'm trying to say, because like I said before, my musical ears have evolved over the years, you know, and I can now listen to that conscious shit and understand what Kanye was trying to say. You know, it's much more relatable, you know, to me, you know. So yeah, like both of these albums, yeah, like you correctly put, they're both like phenomenal. But and even I still listen to both to this very day. You know, I listened to Get Rich the other day. Yeah, and it still sounded good to me. But I would say that for replay value, I would say that Kanye West, College Dropout, has more for me. We're going to be discussing our last topic, which is the cultural impact of both of these albums. I mean, they both had a massive effect on popular culture when they first came out. But Kay, like, who do you think takes the crown for this section?
I mean, it's hard. It depends on what type of culture impact we're talking about, but it's extremely hard. Of course, 50 Cent's culture impact that period of time was, of course, much greater, and that also ties into sort of the beefs that he was having, even when he'd released like The Massacre, which was his second album as well, and the various of other things that is sort of like spawn off with him doing Get Rich or Die Tryin', with the film, for example. Like you're saying, I think you did mention, I think you had a story about the shoes, the G-Unit clothing line.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, obviously at the time, you know, 50, I think he released like his clothing line. Then obviously he released the G-Unit sneakers. And I can remember like back in secondary school, you know, Mandem turning up to school with a fresh white G-Unit sneakers, knowing full well that we're only allowed to wear black shoes, but Mandem didn't care. They were riding up with 50, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, they wanted people to know, listen, like I've got these fresh G-Unit sneakers in it. Like, they wanted to sort of show it off, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, like niggas were basically putting themselves on the line for 50, you know? Like Mandem were wearing bulletproof vests, like nothing to do with the streets. Like they weren't street certified like that, but Mandem were wearing bulletproof vests, you know what I'm saying? Because 50 was wearing bulletproof vests. So yeah, like 50's cultural impact was definitely felt back in 03, 04, or even just the early 90s, man. Like, and again, I think I made this point earlier. It wasn't just in America. It was.
Yeah, it's overseas. Yeah.
Yeah. It was all over. So yeah. Like,
and to add on to his culture impact, yeah, 100%. I will side it more with 50. But again, with 50, there's loads of things that working in his favor that were the reason for him to sort of, you know, reach the heights that he was reaching as well. And again, his image is like it's a stereotypical rapper's image. You get me? Like,
is that the second incarnation of Tupac?
Yeah. I mean, for me, with 50 Cent, it's like if someone wrote a description of what a rapper is, 50 fits that narrative as well. Right. And then tie in with his music, that, and also like how easy and digestible his chorus were, and also to sort of sing out as well. That helped him. That helped for his culture impact to be much greater than someone like Kanye West. And going towards and talking about Kanye West, what's it called, College Dropouts. cultural impact. Again, it was more like a rapper that later on, you know, after the album had been out for a year or two, actually talking about during that time period, Kanye was doing amazing things. We're releasing records like All Falls Down and Jesus Walks, and still, you know, getting, what's it called, top 20 or top 10 in the chart, which is phenomenal for like the type of music that he was doing. But of course, he was doing commercial records like, what's it called?
The new workout plan.
Huh?
The new workout plan.
Yeah, the new workout plan, but more like the Jamie Foxx one, the Twister record.
Slow down.
Yeah, records like
make about 50's cultural impact to Get Rich or Die Tryin' is the fact that, like, even when Kanye came out with the College Dropout a year later, like, I was just not paying attention because I was just so like focused on 50. Like 50 had, he had my ears, he had my eyes, like he had my full undivided attention, to the point where like I knew Kanye West was there, like I knew he was making great music, but I just wasn't paying attention. All I could think about was 50. And I know that the majority of people that I used to hang around with were the same as well, you know? We all respected Kanye and we all thought that he was a good artist, but like 50 was just a man in it. You feel me? And it kind of felt like if I listened to another rapper, I was betraying 50. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, that's how much loyalty. Bro, you don't understand, like 50 beef near enough the whole industry. And I felt like I had to also hate or dislike the artist.
Man's hating Fat Joe. Fuck Fat Joe.
Man's hating Fat Joe, Jadakiss, you know, Ja Rule for no damn reason.
Yeah, and there were good rappers as well, though.
That's what I'm saying. Because 50 had troubles with them, I was like, you know, I'm riding with my homeboy 50. Like, yo, if 50's got issues with them, I got issues with them. You know what I'm saying? That's you know what I'm saying. Like 50's cultural impact was second to none at that point in time.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting as well because being kids during that period of time, and I'm still surprised that I went out of my way to actually listen to Get Rich or Die Tryin' and not the College Dropout, which came out a year later. And it's exactly what you said earlier on. It's, you know, you're a kid, so the type of music 50 was making was easier to sort of digest and understand. And it's not just for us as a kid, it's more or less for what was sort of constantly played on the radio and on MTV. He had, and also again, the beef and loads of other things that kept 50 Cent in the news cycle, which furthered the cultural impact of the album. Do you get me? While with College Dropout, it was still very good. I mean, this man was, I think he went 4 times platinum with that album alone, which is phenomenal, but not to the same stratosphere like Get Rich which did. By the time, by its second year, I think it was it called 6 or 8 million or copies sold in America alone.
Yeah.
And then I think in Europe, where we are based, I think it sold ridiculously as well. So 100% Get Rich or Die Tryin' had the greater cultural impact.
We've come to that point where it's like we have to pick either or. You know what I'm trying to say? Is it Get Rich or Die Tryin' for you, or is it College Dropout? I mean, we've gone through the sonics of both albums, we've gone through the replay value of both albums, we've gone through the cultural impact of both albums, we've gone through the buzz of both albums. So mushing that all together, as this segment is called, if we had to pick, what album would you pick? The College Dropout or Get Rich or Die Tryin'?
I mean, my head would go with College Dropout. It is the better album. It is the album that I fully blown love. And if I was artist, that's probably would be my blueprint. But the Get Rich or Die Tryin' is like, I think you're saying like the nostalgia purposes for it, and also just how it's also a phenomenal album. But I'll pick College Dropout. But it's a 55-45 percentage. 55% to College Dropout and 45 to Get Rich. Do you get me? That's it for me, really. And
I can't even lie. For me, this is a hard one. It's tough because, you know, in the present day, Kanye along with Kendrick Lamar are my 2 favorite artists. But back in 03, 04, or when these 2 albums came out, 50 was my favorite artist. So I was torn between, you know, going with my 2003, 2004 hat on, or going with my present day hat on. But I can't lie, I'm gonna give it to Get Rich or Die Tryin'. And this floating off your point, or the point that you made earlier, I do think that College Dropout is the better album. Like, there's no doubt about it, it's the better album. And I listen to the College Dropout more in the present day than I do with Get Rich or Die Tryin'. But for me, I'm going with Get Rich because of the nostalgia factor. I can't lie, you know, like that album played a massive part in my childhood. And at the time of both of those albums coming out, 50 was my guy, you know what I'm saying? And I used to listen to Get Rich or Die Tryin' literally every single day without fail. Do you get it? And it was just like the album that was on heavily rotation back then, innit? You know what I'm saying? Like everywhere that I went to, you know, it was just Get Rich or Die Tryin' was being blazed out. I mean, and like I didn't really start acknowledging Kanye's music until after the whole 50 and Kanye beef. It wasn't even a beef in it, but like back in
whole
07.
marketing.
Yeah. Back in 07, when obviously 50 lost to Kanye in the sales battle, and I feel like that was practically the end of 50 Cent's reign after he lost that battle to Kanye. I feel like that was only obviously when that happened, that was when I started to proper take in Kanye's discography. So yeah, like I was a late bloomer when it came to Kanye. Like I didn't really take Kanye in until like 2008, 2009. I'm trying to say. So for a good 4 or 5 years, like it was just 50. So yeah, but again, I do feel like College Dropout is the better album. But if I had to pick, I'll go with Get Rich or Die Tryin'. I picked Get Rich or Die Tryin'. Okay, you picked the College Dropout, but I think the general consensus between the both of us is the fact that these two albums are classics. You know, these two albums have definitely stood the test of time. And obviously, shout out to both 50 and Kanye for releasing these two masterpieces. But with that being said, we want to know like what you guys think. Would you guys pick Get Rich or Die Tryin', or would you pick College Dropout? And obviously, let us know. Comment in the section below which one you would pick and why you would pick that album. Get to like, comment, and subscribe. Also share this video. This is the first episode of many. We've got much more of these videos, you know, to come. So obviously keep on supporting. Yeah, you know, till next time. Peace.
People.